Now, just before we finish up, we started today with Andrea talking about the heritage of the cooperative bank. And again, Rachel's just talked about the heritage here in the city of Birmingham. It's an important part of who we are, and it's an important part of how we forge our future. And no other sector has like the absolute gift that we have, which is the Cooperative Heritage Trust. Last year, if you remember, it was the UN Year of the Cooperative, and we had over 400 visitors come to Rochdale and Manchester. And I am on the International Cooperative Alliance, so when I go to different places around the world, you know, we really are revered in the UK for not just being the originals to kind of popularise the idea of cooperatives, but we're still innovating, we're still doing some really exciting things. And Liz McIvor, who leads on the Heritage Trust, is always telling me our heritage is now as well capturing these moments, capturing the fact that we've got, you know, the most MPs in Parliament with cooperative heritage is something that we capture as we go along. But we need to capture it, and we need to make sure that that brilliant institution remains in place. So before I invite Liz and Russell to talk a little bit about the Cooperative Heritage Trust and what they need from you, we're just going to show a little bit of a video about what they do for all of us. So I'd like to welcome to the stage now Liz McIvor from Cooperative Heritage Trust and Russell Gill from the Co-op Group.
Thank you for that, Rose. That's a great introduction. Thanks everybody for your time at the end of the keynote today. As Rose said, my name's Liz McIvor. I'm from the Co-op Heritage Trust. I'm the lead officer. But we're a tiny organisation and we're an independent charity. Now, this charity was set up nearly 20 years ago by our three founders, Co-op Group, Co-ops UK and the Cooperative College. In 2007, actually, was when we were formed. But the museum itself dates back to 1931. That was when it was open to the public for the first time. Captured, saved, if you like, for the movement on behalf of itself and its members to remind itself of where it had come from and how powerful in the 1930s it had become. And what a sort of touch point or touchstone it was for people. The archive is in a separate geographical location. It's currently in central Manchester at Co-ops UK's building, Holyoke House. And it itself was also kept and saved and added to over the years by the movement to enable research, to enable understanding of how we got to where we got to. And as that sort of important facet, that important thing to go back to for study and to remind ourselves why co-ops are different. So we're an independent charity, but we were formed to bring those assets together and to protect them at a time of crisis for retail cooperatives in the UK in the early 2000s. A time where we thought those assets might be stripped and lost forever. They might disappear. We might not have them to rely on, to go back to. So we're a professional staff, we're a tiny staff, there's only actually 3 full-time members of staff across 2 sites, and the costs of maintaining that offer, and especially until this year a free offer to the public, free at the point of use if you like, is now no longer sustainable. The exponential costs of running a heritage building, of looking after materials in a proper way to make sure that they're still available to people in the future, and to pay staff, to support volunteers through paying their expenses as well, and to offset the costs of climate change on our building and on our assets is massive. And it's no longer able to be supported by the endowment that was put forward when we were formed, 3 million endowment from the cooperative group. That now is no longer able to sustain us. We're in a deficit. There's no way for us to trade out on our own of that deficit without help. And our corporate donations, if you like, are fractional compared to our rising costs of goods and services and the costs of maintaining an offer, even with changing business model, with tickets, with room hire, with selling merchandise, as much as we can do in our really small, tiny organisation. So we now need to look at something different. So it's a great positive thing. That video shows you what we can do, shows you the asset that we hold. But this is the negative part. This is the part that if we don't use it and we don't support it now, we will lose it and it will be gone forever. And not only will that not be able to be afforded, it's also the liability that we hold on looking after those assets. That's retained. So even if we close the museum, we close the archive, we mothball it, the costs don't stop. They continue to go up, and actually the liability also goes up, because as we're an independent charity, these assets cannot be sold. They can't be monetised. So somebody will have to hold the liability for this if we don't exist. And we have now to change that picture. And that's why we need the support of the whole movement. So it's the time to act before we wind up. Loss is more than money, as I said. Heritage is a tool. It is a strategic tool that organisations and businesses of all scales can use and can develop. The ICA is increasingly looking at its own heritage and its own archive because it recognises the value of heritage, and that in other countries where it has its membership. So we want to save this, not to fixate on the past, but to build towards the future and continue to educate and form our identity as cooperatives in a UK cooperative movement. We've got time for questions afterwards, but I know Russell Gill has got something to say to you as well, so thank you so much for listening.
Afternoon, everybody. So Liz couldn't have put it any more clearly. There are consequences if we collectively take no action. Now, actually, as a movement, we've seen a number of cases recently where, sadly, on occasions, the changing shape of the movement has led to the demise of some institutions and organisations. But as Liz has made clear, this case is different. This isn't actually just about an institution. It's not about saving an institution. This is actually about the assets we are responsible for, the assets we cherish so much. Can we really conceive of a situation where we are boarding up Toad Lane and saying no to future visitors, or breaking up the collection? We need to find a solution. Now, as co-operators, we're stewards of the movement, ready to pass on all that is important to us to future generations, just as previous generations of co-operators have done the same for us. And there's no more vivid example of that than what exists in Rochdale. And we heard it really, really brought to life this morning by Tony. Couldn't have been more perfectly pitched for this session right now. And of course, it's not just about bricks and mortar. The National Cooperative Archive is arguably one of the most complete business archives that exists anywhere. It is a truly unique, not just for the cooperative movement, but for UK business more broadly. It's something that really brings to life who we are as an organisation, and something that other heritage brands, and there are ones out there, would actually kill for. This is something that we all value and we all must cherish. And as Liz made clear, our stewardship isn't actually just about for future generations. It's stewardship on behalf of the global movement. The global movement looks to Rochdale. We've got a responsibility. And if this is right, if we do have a responsibility, it cannot be right that collectively over multiple years we have chosen not to invest to support the preservation of our heritage, the very essence of who we are. Now, I believe we've got to act, and I believe that action has to take place in two stages. Firstly, we need to provide immediate support to the trustees of the Co-op Heritage Trust so that they do not have to initiate the process now to commence the winding up of the trust. And if we do not take action, that is what will happen. It will be the trustees' responsibility to do so. So to address this immediate need, the Co-op Group will provide a substantial six-figure cash injection designed to stem the reduction of what remains of the Trust's endowment. But I need to be really clear, this is not enough to prevent the Trust from declaring a loss this year and therefore eating further into its endowment. So the Co-op Group cannot act alone on this. And I believe nor should it act alone. I think it is on all of us. So my plea to other cooperatives in this room is to put your shoulder to the wheel as well and play your part proportionately this year in what needs to be done to contribute towards the salvation of the Co-op Heritage Trust and to stop things getting worse. But secondly, and much more significantly perhaps, in much the same way as the movement needs to perhaps address and think about how it wants to face into some of the other challenges about the changing shape of the movement, we must also collectively decide how we propose to meet the costs of maintaining and sustaining our heritage into the future. We cannot rely any longer on living on a donation that was made 20 years ago. A new funding model in which we all contribute must be part of our thinking going forward. So again, specifically, a clear message from Congress that you want the movement's leaders and institution and members to develop a sustainable solution would be a really powerful message to the Co-op Heritage Trust trustees to know that we are with them in trying to find a solution. So in short, a signal where we can say, as stewards of the Co-op Heritage today, we're going to find a solution that will ensure that everything that we have enjoyed is there for future generations as well. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you're prepared to join with us to take action.
Right, okay, breakout room 3 after this session. There's a call to action there. Co-operative Heritage Trust looking for support for us all. We asked tough questions at Congress and we put challenges out there. We've asked lots of tough questions today. We talk about cooperatives providing solutions. These guys do need solutions from all of us. We've heard today, though, about people power. We've heard about trust, creativity, leadership, heritage, and now the role of government in further supporting cooperative growth. And this evening we'll continue with the International Supper later on, kindly sponsored by our co-op. And tomorrow we'll be joined by a new influx of people for Day 2 of Co-op Congress and the National Youth Summit. We would ask that for those of you who are leaving us today and not able to join us tomorrow, that you do give us feedback. We really listen to our feedback. The feedback you give us, by the way, goes into our KPIs that the board judges on. So we really appreciate your feedback and your honesty, and we do act and make changes based on that feedback. So we've actually got some free time now, apart from those of you that can join the Heritage Trust team. And hopefully you'll be joining us later to carry on the tradition started at the UN year to talk about our international trade opportunities. So we've got some really exciting speakers from the International Cooperative Alliance joining us. So we're going to be meeting, if those of you that were here last year and we did a parade from the drinks to our evening celebration, we did try to do it here in Birmingham, but down by the side of the canal, but literally Birmingham Council said we were a health and safety hazard and wouldn't let us. So we're going to start our drinks very sensibly outside in the foyer. So we're 6:45 for 7 and then we're on to the international supper. So thank you so much for making Congress what it's been today, and look forward to seeing you later and tomorrow. Thank you so much.